When I first taught my film studies class in high school, I warned the students the very first day, half the films we see in here are going to be in black and white, because I knew a lot of teenagers didn't like that. I usually organize my syllabus chronologically and also by genre in general. And when I got to the film noir unit, I knew I wanted to use a film that defines the film noir genre. And that's the topic for today's episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. This is my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today for our big 60th episode, Double Indemnity, a film that is essential film noir and which I like to call cinematic comfort food. We'll talk about why I love this film so much, black and white versus color, and a word of the day. There's so much I could say about Double Indemnity. I could go on for an hour, but nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to see that. So I'm going to just try to keep this as short and to the point as I possibly can. Let's start with the basics. Double Indemnity was made in 1944. It's about an insurance salesman, Walter, who plots with a woman, Phyllis, to kill her husband and collect on his accident insurance policy. The name Double Indemnity refers to a gimmick that some insurance companies used, where if you had an accident policy and you died in an unusual way, say falling off a train in this case, then the payout to you would be twice as much money. The director was one of my favorites, Billy Wilder. He directed Some Like It Hot, The Apartment, Sunset Boulevard, a lesser-known film which is really good called Ace in the Hole. His co-writer on the screenplay was none other than Raymond Chandler, the famous crime novelist who created the character Philip Marlowe. The two men did not get along. There's a lot of stories about them not getting along. Chandler was sort of an introvert, an alcoholic. He was 20 years older than Wilder. Wilder was a raconteur and more of an extrovert. There is a cameo of Chandler early in the film when Walter walks out of his office and he walks down the hallway. You can see Chandler sitting on a bench. There was also a play that I happened to see about the two of them writing this film. It was called Billy and Ray. I've not seen this performed since I saw it years ago at the Falcon Theater in Burbank. But it's just one set, and it's all about these two men hashing out the dialogue and the screenplay. And if you're familiar with the film like I am, it's total catnip. It's just fantastic. And hopefully this will show up some other time and be performed again. Let's talk about the cast a little bit. Barbara Stanwyck plays Phyllis. And she was usually doing light comedies, like she had just done, I think, The Lady Eve. And so this was an unusual role for her, kind of a dark role. And she was reluctant to take it. Billy Wilder kind of talked her into it by giving her a challenge, saying, "Oh, well, I thought you were an actress." So that was a challenge to her, so she decided to do it. Fred MacMurray plays Walter. And the role was offered to many other actors in Hollywood. They all said no because of the material, which I'll get to in a minute. Fred MacMurray was doing light comedy roles. This was totally unlike this role. And so he said, this is just going to ruin my career. But finally he said, what the heck, let's go for it. And I think it made his career, really. In a supporting role was Edward G. Robinson, who I think is just always good. And he was reluctant to do this because he usually took lead roles up to this point. This was a supporting role, but he liked the script. He decided to take it, and he's great. It was nominated for 7 Oscars, did not win any of them. The Best Picture Oscar that year, instead of going to Double Indemnity, went to Going My Way with Bing Crosby. I've never seen that film. I really don't have any desire to see that film. And I don't hear anybody really talk about that film anymore or say how great it is. But I do hear people talk about this still. This one will live forever, right? Now, the production code was a board of censors that had to approve every film. And the material for this was such that nobody wanted to touch it. I mean, it's two people teaming up to kill the woman's husband. And so there's no real protagonist, and it's kind of a seamy story. So, nobody wanted to touch it. None of the actors wanted to do it really. But Billy Wilder was convinced that this was good material. But the funny thing is about the production code, because they had to censor so many things like violence and sex and other things, that filmmakers were forced to make interesting creative choices. For example, when Phyllis is driving the car and her husband's next to her and Walter's hiding in the back seat, he's going to kill the husband while she's driving. And he does, but you can't show him killing the husband because that would go against the production code. Instead, the camera focuses on Phyllis's reaction, and she's got this look on her face of coldness and sort of a steely, icy satisfaction. And that's much more effective than to show him just killing this guy. So why do I love Double Indemnity so much? Well, basically because it works on every level. Directing, cinematography, acting, writing, even the music. And I call it cinematic comfort food because when I watch this, I know I'm in the hands of master filmmakers. I trust them to take me on this journey and that they know what they're doing. One of my early episodes was about another film I called cinematic comfort food, and that was 2001, A Space Odyssey. You can't get a film much more different than this, but still the same qualities. I know I'm in good hands when I watch that. It also helps to love the film noir genre and to know the film almost by heart at this point. And of course, the LA locations are just a plus. It's the quintessential noir look. It's in beautiful black and white. It's got those Venetian blind shadows covering the wall and covering the people's faces, showing that they're sort of trapped and that they're almost prison bars in front of them. And sometimes their faces are in such darkness, you can't even see their faces. They're standing there, sitting there, and their faces are almost completely covered in darkness. And that brings us to the word of the day, which you probably already know, and that is, I'm going to try to say this right, chiaroscuro. That's the distribution of light and shadow in a picture, something done to enhance character, and it's for dramatic effect. Think of a Rembrandt painting. There are so many great moments in this film that I wasn't even going to mention any of them because there's just too many, but indulge me for a minute. One moment is when Walter first sees Phyllis walking down the staircase and the camera focuses on her anklet that she's wearing, and he becomes sort of obsessed with that, and it begins his obsession with her in general. There's another scene where Edward G. Robinson is explaining to his boss the various kinds of suicide, and it's a lot of material for him to memorize, and apparently every take he just nailed it each time, and it's a lot of fun to watch that. The beginning is Walter confessing to the murder, so I think for the first time any film ever did this, where you have the you know who the killer is at the beginning of the film, and then the rest of it is a flashback showing how this whole thing transpired. There's also a scene where Walter, after the murder, thinks he's got everything covered. He's very careful about everything, and he's walking down the street, and suddenly his voiceover narration says that something is wrong, and I couldn't hear my own footsteps. It was the walk of a dead man. Great dialogue. There's another great scene where Phyllis and Walter are first starting to flirt with each other, especially Walter is, and he's going a little bit too fast, and Phyllis says, "There's a speed limit in this town, mister." And Walter says, "How fast was I going?" And she said, "About 90. And he says, "Suppose you give me a ticket." And it goes on back and forth like that. And I asked the students, what is going on in this scene? Why are they talking like that? They knew right away. They're flirting, and he wants to get into bed with her. That was a suggestion that the czar of noir, Eddie Muller, had, and it worked really well. And then, of course, the ending is perfect because throughout the film, every time Edward G. Robinson's character wants to light a cigar, he never has a match. And Walter always lights a match for him. And then at the end, when Walter is suffering from a gunshot wound, he takes out a cigarette, but he can't seem to light the match. Edward G. Robinson takes the match and lights it for him in turn at the very end. So let's talk about this disc. This is a limited edition, And I'm going to talk about what's on the disc first, because one thing on here is a remake of Double Indemnity made for TV in 1973 in color. It's almost blasphemy. Richard Crenna plays Walter. Samantha Eggers plays Phyllis. Lee J. Cobb plays Barton Keyes, the Edward G. Robinson character. And I love Lee J. Cobb. He's great in On the Waterfront, 12 Angry Men. But watching this in color and watching these people saying these lines, which is almost exactly the same dialogue as the original, it reminded me of watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where you have the feeling like these people know the lines and they're acting the right way, but something's off. They're not the right thing. Something's missing. And actually the screenplay for the made-for-TV movie was by Stephen Bochco, who did a lot of TV work like NYPD Blue, LA Law, and Hill Street Blues. But boy, it does not work. And you know, this was one topic I raised with the students, because I used to show Psycho to my students every year. And then, just to reinforce the idea of how valuable black and white can be, I showed them the remake of Psycho, which is shot by shot, directed by Gus Van Sant, but in color. And I only had to show about 20 minutes of the remake in color, and I asked the students, all right, which one's more effective? Which one do you like better? Hands down, the black and white worked better. It just has a different feel to it, heightened reality maybe, more the Psycho, more of a documentary feel to it. But, you know, color just doesn't make it with a film like this. Now in this particular one, because it's a limited edition, it only has a couple of extra things. It has this nice box, and some of this is embossed printing on here. And it has some lobby cards and some photos. And I'm going to show you, like here's a lobby card for the film. And whoops, I don't want to get to that yet. And there's another lobby card and another one and a poster, which I think I might have to get for this room because I still haven't gotten posters up. And this one I don't like very much. But this is the original ending for Double Indemnity, where you have Walter in the gas chamber being punished for what he did, and there's Edward G. Robinson observing outside. They filmed this, and I think partially they did it because to please the production code, to show that he is definitely being punished for what he did. But the film is nowhere to be found, and apparently you'll never see this film, but it was actually filmed. So the other things on this Blu-ray is introduction by Robert Osborne, rest in peace, a little feature about the film, some commentaries, and that's the only thing that's the only differences between the limited edition and this is that box and those 6 lobby cards. For some reason, this limited edition is going for $80 on Amazon, and just because of the box and the lobby cards, I guess. I don't know why, because you can get the Blu-ray for $15, and it's all the same features in this exactly. And you can of course rent Double Indemnity. This is a rare occasion where I suggest you buy it, because I think it's really going to be a film you're going to want to watch several times and just enjoy it so much. Another thing I want to mention is a book. And if you're a Billy Wilder fan, you might want to check out this book. It's called Conversations with Wilder. It's Cameron Crowe, the filmmaker and writer, who is interviewing Billy Wilder and covers really all of his career. And this one I paid $35 for when it came out. Right now, the hardbound, which is what this is $22 on Amazon. For some bizarre reason, it's $900 in paperback. I have no idea why that is. And one interesting tidbit from this film is Billy Wilder was really interested in making a film of my favorite novel, The Catcher in the Rye. And it never happened, of course, because if you know anything about J.D. Salinger and The Catcher in the Rye, he was never going to allow anybody to make a film about his book. So there you have it. Double Indemnity, cinematic comfort food. Hope you like this video. Feel free to leave a comment or a suggestion down here. Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Share this with your friends and your neighbors. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.